Well, this is Thought for the Day on Wednesday, the 26th of May. And on Monday, just gone, Bob Dylan was 80 years old. And I think I love every record, almost every track Bob ever produced. Seriously, I love Bob Dylan that much. But when Bob brought out his Christmas album several years ago, my first thought was, Bob, what were you thinking? It's unlike anything else he's ever done. It's almost the antithesis of Bobliness, to be honest. Now, I have to say, as a brand new follower of Jesus many years ago, that is exactly what I thought of the parable that we're looking at in Luke's Gospel today. I looked at it and I read it and I didn't understand it at all. I thought, Jesus, what were you thinking? In fact, even now, I honestly don't think I could put it in my top 10 parables. So have a read of Luke chapter 16, verses 1 to 13. And if you've never scratched your head over this one, well, maybe you should be doing these thoughts for the day and not me. So Luke chapter 13, verses 1 to 13. Hopefully you've had a chance to read it now. I'm really grateful to Leslie Francis and Peter Atkins for their take and reframing of this parable. And what I'm going to say now is definitely influenced by some of the things they've said about it. So imagine you are the manager facing the sack in this parable. You've been too slack, too wasteful with money. Imagine being in your office as the owner walks in. You know what's coming, you know what he's going to say, and you know it is not going to go well. You've been far too easygoing and slack with the owner's debtors. The owner says, I want you to get the accounts up to date and sorted out, and then you can go. You are gutted. You know you wouldn't be able to do manual work. Age and your own personal strength are against you. You're going to need friends to get another job. Universal credit doesn't exist. Well, the owner leaves and you pick up the phone and you start dialing the debtors. Now, you could email them, but you went to a TED Talk once by Simon Sinek, and you remember what he said. Emails get reactions, phone calls start conversations, and you need some conversations. In those conversations, you give up any notion of doing what you would usually do and what you've always done in the past, and you cut out any margin of profit for yourself. You make deals to receive payments in kind with the debtors, and you insist that each of the debtors has to pay promptly. And then a little bit later on, the debtors start rolling up to your place of work. Now, you usually make 100% profit on olive oil, but there'll be no margin for you this time. The owner will take it all. The olive oil merchant shakes your hand, pats you on the back for such an amazing discount that you've given him, and says, contact me anytime if you need help. You usually make maybe 40 or 50% profit on wheat, but there'll be no margin for you this time. The owner, will take it all. The farmer's very pleased with the discount that you give him, and for the first time ever, he calls you my friend. The day goes on, and by late evening, you have no wealth. You've made no money for yourself, only for the owner, but you do have many friends. You've been decisive, clever, and shrewd under pressure. Everyone wins. The owner receives some return, the debtors got a good discount. You don't have any money or very little money, but you do have friends. Now, Jesus didn't commend him for his dishonesty, only his shrewdness, his forward thinking, his foresight. And maybe we should read the parable something like that. In verses 10 to 13, Jesus follows this up by saying it's what we do with and our attitude towards money and material possessions that is indicative of a deeper truth about the state of our hearts and our love and trust in God. The word we've translated as money is the Greek word mammonos, or in Hebrew and Aramaic, mammon. Jesus seems to suggest that money almost has personality and power, that it isn't neutral but can easily get a grip on our lives, whether we have a lot or a little, or somewhere in between. And it's a good question to ask ourselves. Does money entice us, or does it terrify us? And Jesus really says that the only rules when it comes to money are these. Don't let it rule and ruin your life. Don't be wasteful, spend it wisely. And finally, be generous. Spend it for the benefit of others. Do you know, I also wondered yesterday if Jesus wasn't being a little bit tongue-in-cheek in this parable as well. Is he also saying you and I are only the managers and stewards of the money that we have? It's actually all God's anyway. Therefore, don't worry about being generous with money and possessions. It's not yours anyway. We can all afford to be generous with someone else's money, and it's all God's in the end. Well, maybe Jesus was also saying, like our lives, our money is on loan from God. Whether we have a lot or a little or somewhere in between, it's our attitude towards money and possessions that is the most important. In talking about money, I need to just add a few things at the end. If you're struggling with debt, CAP is a great organisation to seek help from. Christians Against Poverty, CAP, have helped at least 3 people, 3 households that I know at St Mary's. But they've also helped tens of thousands of other people to get out of the kind of slavery and imprisonment, really, that debt is. Below in the comments, I'll put the contact details for CAP. If you want to campaign for the Oxford Living Wage, I'll put details in the comments box below as well. That campaign is seeking to persuade employers to pay an hourly rate of at least £10.31. The legal minimum wage is only £8.91. And if you have money to spare, give a chunk of it away. I can think of an absolutely brilliant building project in a local church not far from here that is creating a generous facility that will benefit everybody in this community. If you've got some money that you want to give away, get in touch and I can point you in the direction of that particular project. Or if, like most people, like me, you fall somewhere in between, Jesus says, spend wisely, don't waste money, but be generous and use it to bless others. In what ways are we wasteful with money and possessions? In what ways are we generous? What actions would we need to make to be less wasteful with money and more generous? Not generous to ourselves, generous to those around us, to use our money to be a blessing to others.